Thank you very much for coming to the podcast. In this podcast, we deconstruct the lives of those who has achieved excellence in their career, and we would like to deconstruct their formula to understand how they are able to do that. Today, my guest is a picture of the leadership. I've known him for past 20 years, and today we are going to find out all the things he has learned to become who he is today. I would like to welcome Michael Wheeler. Thank you very much, Michael, for joining us today.
Welcome. Good to be here.
So, I've been talking about that we do not believe in magic, we believe in tricks. So, today we would like to understand. We have known Michael as a leader in the private club industry, and his name is synonymous with excellence. And we consider him as a kingmaker, the person who brings in raw talent and turns them into next generation leader. So we would like to understand what process you went through, and we will go back to your childhood to understand what kind of kid you were.
Well, born into a family, an Air Force family, so I was an Air Force brat growing up, and moved 9 times before graduating high school. And to consider that type of livelihood is the fact that you were, you're moving around an awful lot to different parts of the world and different parts of the country. And every time we move, you'd have to create new friends. And so creating new friends was something that was early on. That's something that you had to do in order to just get along with your classmates and what have you.
Yeah.
I was always interested in sports and played sports all my life, all the way through college. And so it was somewhat easier for me to get into the crowd that I would typically be around with because of the sporting arrangements.
Yeah.
Whether it be baseball earlier on in life, basketball and golf later on. It was something that made it really easy to kind of fit in. But it was something that gave the introductions, but you have to do something with those introductions. You have to do something with those friendships. So it's early on. That's what I had to deal with. I was competitive in sports. It's interesting how baseball was my first love of life, and going back earlier in life, my grandmother gave me a wiffle ball and a bat when I was, I think, 2 or 3, and have very good eye-hand coordination and still do from there. And she tossed the ball up when I was at that age, and I took the first swing at it and broke her glasses.
That's interesting.
And it's one of those where early in life you knew full well that there was something there from a hand-eye coordination, and I loved the game of baseball. Was an accurate thrower, and basically in baseball I was the utilitarian player. I was the first pitcher. But I'd then take the position of all the pitchers that came after me. So I would catch, I'd play shortstop, I'd play all the different positions that the pitchers would come out of in order to play. Had a very accurate throw, and had a really wicked curveball earlier on in life. Today you don't teach kids to throw curveballs when they're, in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades and stuff like that. But that transition to the point where my velocity never went higher than the low 80s, and so therefore baseball didn't turn out to be something that was going to be good for me in the long run going forward. And when I got into freshman in high school, I tried out for the golf team, and I made the varsity golf team as a freshman, and I made the junior varsity baseball team as a freshman.
That's awesome.
And but they were the same season in the same time frame.
Okay.
And so I had to make a choice, and I chose golf.
Okay.
I got away from baseball and chose golf. I still played summer baseball, but I chose golf in high school because it was a varsity sport as a freshman. And the one thing that my coach really said to me that resonated was, you've played baseball all your life, you'll play golf all your life. And that really resonated with me because it was something that was not just for the next couple of years. It's something I'll take on through the balance of my life, and not just the first 16 or 18 years of my life. And golf has played an instrumental role in where I am today in this business. It's Loring Air Force Base, Maine, which is at the tip of the mitt. If you put a hand up, and Limestone, Maine is way up top. And I met the Officers Club manager on the 9-hole military golf course when I was in 6th grade when I picked up the game. I was third low nets in my flight as a 6th grader for the base championship. And I had met Roy Camp. Roy Camp was the Officers Club manager. Fast forward after college, I was working in a restaurant in the Washington, D.C. area after graduating from college. My dad was still active duty military. Roy Camp was a general manager at Army-Navy Country Club in Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah.
And he ran into my dad.
Okay.
He says, "What's your son doing?" He says, "I was running a restaurant in town." He said, "I didn't know he was in the business, hospitality business." Bring his resume and come to lunch and have lunch with me in the grill at Army-Navy. And I did, and he walked away. This was 1988.
This is before college.
This is after college.
This is after college.
I graduated in 88.
Okay.
And so I was working for the restaurant for 5-6 months, and I had lunch with Roy, with my dad, and he went away to conference with my resume and came back with the name of somebody locally in the DC area that was looking for an assistant manager.
Interesting.
I interviewed for the job, paid my benefits, matched my salary that I was making at the time frame, and I was bored after the restaurant after 9 months then. It was something had to be more than just be a key carrier. I wanted it to be something more than just that. And the restaurant was something that I worked all the way through all the positions, because that's a job I had in high school, was from busboy to a server and a line cook. I did almost everything in the restaurant. And then after graduating college, I was a manager. So it's kind of neat that you've gone through all the different positions in the restaurant, and you know the restaurant in and out, how it works.
Yeah.
But now you're the manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being a manager in a restaurant chain of 13, privately owned, it was exciting, but yet it got boring very quickly, because I wanted to be on the other side of things. I wanted to be on the formulation of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just didn't want to be just a manager, just key carrying person who opens the doors and locks the doors at night and the likes. And so it was intriguing to have somebody who was get another opportunity to do something other than just the restaurants, but just be in the club world.
Yeah.
The person who hired me, his name is Roy, was Ralph Pecca.
Okay.
At Lakewood Country Club in Rockville, Maryland.
Okay.
And when I first got there, I was excited because of the opportunity. 2 weeks into the job, I called Roy Camp, and I told him that how bad a place it was. It just was not really what I thought it was going to be. And Roy said, I think I had some different choice words I said, but nonetheless, I got the point across. And Roy says, "Well, you didn't have to take the job. I opened the door for you. You didn't have to take it."
Yeah.
And my statements about being bored in the restaurant, wanting something more, those are words, but you got to back up your words with statements of what you do.
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to do the things that needed to be done to be successful in the club world, and I was lulled to sleep at the restaurant. Ralph fired me in 5 months. He did. I deserved every bit of it, but for 6 months after that, you couldn't tell me that it was my fault. And after 6 months, I figured out it was me. It wasn't Ralph. But I blamed him for everything that went wrong in my life for 6 months. And Roy had a position at Army-Navy that he didn't have a management position at his Fairfax location. And so he hired me to be his AGM at Fairfax. And it was a very small operation at the time frame. It was golf supportive, and it was an annex facility for sure. And he got me in the association. He took me to CMA meetings and sort of introduced me to my brethren in town, which Ralph didn't do. Then I got really excited. And when I came to amends that it was my fault, and I needed to do something different to be successful in this world, was really the turning point for my life.
Yeah.
And I've told Ralph the story ever since that time frame.
Yeah.
And in fact, through my career in the National Capital chapter, I got on the board, and there was an event that was being held at Lakewood Country Club, and Ralph Pecca was hosting. It was something for the Wine Society, and the whole chapter went over and what have you, and I was on the board, and Ralph called me over and said, "Come here for a second." He said, "A rumor has it you didn't apply for the scholarship program for the chapter's giving away, because I'm on the review committee." I told him, I said, "No, it's not true. I was going for my master's at the time frame, working about 70 hours a week at the Woodmont Country Club at the time, working for Bill Kendall." I said, "I could use the money, but I'm working 20 hours a week for my master's and 70 hours a week for the at the club. I just didn't have the time. I would have done it. And I said, well, now that we're burying hatchets, you know, I blamed you for everything that went wrong in my life for 6 months after you fired me. He says, really? I said, and I want to thank you for what you did, because I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't what you did for me.
Yeah.
I needed that wake-up call, that slap in the face, the splash of water, because I wasn't willing to do the things I do today to be successful in the business. And you recognized that, and you summarily, you fired me for the right reasons. But I needed that. He says, now that we're burying the hatchet, Michael, you know, I called Bill Kendall when you were applying for the job. I said, yes, he told me. He said, did he tell you what I told him? I said, yes, he told you. He told me that you told him not to hire me. And Ralph said to me, I'm glad he didn't listen to me. And I'm like, well, I am too. And when I came to Cherokee, Ralph called me. And he said, well, you know, I never knew what you were going to turn into, Michael. I'm glad that Bill didn't listen to me. And your career speaks for itself, all the different things you've actually done. You've reached royalty, is what he said to me. And I said, well, I was trying to do the right thing for the right times, and to keep my nose clean and do a good job. And it pays off over time. So getting in the business is something that you don't really realize, that the relationships you have or you make, the people that you run into when you're 6th grade, have that kind of impact on your life going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit about your childhood, just like the way you were explaining. You were in 6th grade and you met, you know, somebody inspirational to your father. Who were you more closer to in between your parents, mom and dad?
I was really close to my mom.
Okay.
You know, Dad was somewhat the authoritarian. He was the full bird colonel.
Okay.
Pilot.
Okay.
And the likes. And you know, Dad and I had a good relationship. It wasn't as good as my mom. My mom was always around. Dad wasn't around as much. He worked an awful lot with his military commitments and the likes. And he'd go on TDYs, and he wasn't always there. Mom was the constant in my life. And the inspiration for the game of golf came from her father, my grandfather.
Oh, okay.
He was a photographer in the Navy.
Okay.
And he was a foodie.
Okay.
And a scratch golfer.
Okay. What about your mother? Was she a home-staying mother?
She did substitute teaching.
Okay.
So she was really a stay-home mom.
Okay.
And so that connection between my grandfather and my mom was the cooking part. My mom would make a little bit of anything out of nothing.
Yeah.
And she was a good cook, and she was not a fancy cook, but it was home cooking. It was really good things that you really wanted to do. And she cooked for 10, even though we had 5 in the family.
Yeah.
And she always wanted to have people come over, because you never knew who was going to come over.
Yeah.
She cooked for 4 days, and we had smorgasbord or leftovers for 3 days afterwards. And my friends would my mom would ask if my friends would stick around after playing basketball in the afternoon or something else like that. And they always asked the question, well, what's for dinner? And if I said smorgasbord, the answer is yes, more so than no. And she loved being that home welcoming body into the house.
Yeah.
And, you know, my wife and I are that way. We entertain an awful lot. We love to cook in the house. We love to have people come over, and that influence came from my mother and how she ran the family, ran the home, and the likes. And that, of course, the cooking influence came from my grandfather.
So you were the only child?
I'm the middle of 3.
Middle of 3. Okay.
So I have 2 sisters.
Okay.
I have an older sister and a younger sister.
So they pampered you?
No.
Along with mother? No.
My older sister and I really weren't very close at all growing up. My younger sister and I were closer. She was somewhat of a tomboy growing up and did a lot of sports, and still does sports today. She's a power lifter today.
Oh, wow.
In her 50s, and wins some awards and does some of those things.
That's awesome.
She would try to play. They didn't have enough interest to have girls teams, so they had some girls teams and boys teams kind of mixed together and stuff like that. And I remember one day in Maine, I was the pitcher, and my sister was the batter.
Okay.
And the one that I was the pitcher, she was the batter.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to take it easy on her. I don't want to try to do anything else. So I was actually throwing at a lower velocity, just trying to make sure she could do it, and just giving her encouragement. Of course, she held me on a pedestal, being her big brother, and wanted to be like me from that standpoint. And we were closer in many different ways there.
What's the age difference between 3 of you?
2.5 years and 3.
2.5 and 3.
So 2.5 between my older sister and my She was born 62. So, no, it's actually 3.5 years, and then 3 years.
Okay. Okay.
My older sister, she didn't go to school. She went to a community college, and my younger sister and I made choices to go. My choice to go to Hampden-Sydney College was all about the game of basketball, and it was the only place that I got into college to that I wanted to play hoops. I wanted to continue to play. The only one that would actually talk to me about playing, and so I ended up making a great decision academically for the wrong reasons, and went to Hampden-Sydney. It's an all-male college in South Central Virginia.
Yeah.
10th oldest college in the country. It's still all male today. And my younger sister followed my wife. My wife went to Randolph-Macon Co-ed in Ashland, Virginia. And my younger sister followed her and went to Randolph-Macon as well. I'm the pragmatist of the two. My younger sister is the brainiac of all of us. And my older sister is kind of in between all worlds from that standpoint. She's again, she took emphasis on more family first versus having the academics at different parts, even though we have given the same opportunities. But it is also interesting in the same family, having the same upbringing, how different all three of us are.
Yeah, yeah. So you were closer to mother, but what about the sisters? Were they closer to dad?
Both my sisters had they call my father Daddy.
Okay.
I never called my father Daddy. It was always my dad.
Okay. I was like, maybe it's sir.
Yeah, yes sir, Colonel. Yes sir, Colonel. So exactly right. There's a lot of those. As we moved around from that standpoint, we all graduated from the same high school, which is really amazing. You think all the moving around. It was Northern Virginia was the high school we graduated from. My older sister stayed in Northern Virginia when we went to Kansas my junior year in high school. My dad had open heart surgery the following spring, so we went back to my same high school, same house, same everything for my senior year. So we're only in Kansas for 9 months. He retired, and they stayed in that house until 2023 from there. My younger sister married the Geico corporate pilot.
Oh, okay.
And he was in the avionics and always got along with my dad really well. Talked flights and airplanes, what have you. Yeah. He was one of the vice presidents of Alaska Airlines. He did all the different positions in Alaska, and retired from them, and then went back to work for them to do the merger between Alaska Airlines and Hawaii Airlines. He was the CEO of Hawaiian Airlines until the merger was actually finalized this last year. So very successful man. But he moved my sister to Alaska. My parents did not like that. They live in Seattle today.
Okay. And what about the older sister?
Older sister stayed in Northern Virginia. She still stayed in Northern Virginia. She married and has 3 kids. Both my younger sister and I have 2. Her oldest is currently a major in the Air Force as an OB-GYN nurse in the delivery section. She's lived abroad in Japan once, and also in Okinawa. It's where her daughter was born, in Tokyo. And she's now stationed in San Antonio. Middle child is the boy, so she has the same family dynamic as we had growing up. So she has 2 girls that bookend the boy. His career path has kind of changed over time. But he got married and did what we did. Waited a little while to have children. He just had his firstborn a couple months ago. And the youngest is still unmarried. Yeah. She's moved away from home, went to Charlotte, and then moved back to DC, and then now we're living in Tennessee.
Okay. So how often do you guys meet? Like, I know geographically, Georgia, Alaska, and the other one in San Antonio. It's very difficult. My older sister lives in the DC area, still does. Okay. It's not. We don't really get together. We used to get together once a summer. In Lake Anna, Virginia. My parents had a lake house they bought in 1992. That was a place when we were all in Northern Virginia. We'd actually go down to the lake house and enjoy the water sports in the summertime. And I had a boat at the time, and it was great to kind of do water skiing and tubing in lakes down there. Yeah. So we spent a lot of times, at least to try to get together once a year for a week or 2 in Lake Anna. Yeah. That went by the wayside when we stopped going
to Lake Anna when we found a caregiver for my oldest. My oldest is nonverbal autistic, classically diagnosed with autism.
Okay.
He's non-academic, and he'll always be with us in our house. And so we finally got a caregiver for him, and we're able to then do some traveling. Then we took the opportunity then to take those summer times. We went to Lake Anna, and we go on trips in the summertime.
Okay.
So 10 days to 2 weeks we'd be able to go, and since that time frame, those kind of gatherings stopped. We've had two family reunions, 1998 and 2008, at the lake.
Okay.
And the likes. Some family things were my retirements, the bigger occasions we get together. My parents had their 50th wedding anniversary, and my wife helped organize that.
Okay.
And that was in the DC area,
Yeah.
and getting together for those types of things.
Right.
So bigger family events, those types of things were always times to get everybody together.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad would then travel for the holidays to come visit. So they'd visit Georgia for Christmas, and then the next year they might go to Seattle. They stay home for 2 years, and they kind of make those rounds that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're enjoying their retired life to the fullest.
Yeah. We spent time in Mexico with my parents,
Okay.
at least twice a year.
Oh,
So my parents bought into some places in Mexico, and since 2001, we've been going to the same place. Actually, going to Mexico since 2001, but since 2007, the same place down there. And so we would spend the time and make the arrangements for my parents to go down. My sisters would sometimes come and go there. And after my grandmother passed away, she had a goal to put us on like a cruise or something like that. And, that transitioned to a place staying in the resort in Mexico versus going on a cruise.
Right.
So the whole family got together after that, and
Yeah.
we toasted my grandmother and paid homage to her life and what have you, and her influence on us.
Yeah.
But twice a year, I see my parents at least twice a year. When I'd go back in the spring for National Committee Week and visits. I'd always go a day or two early, go see my parents. Leadership conference was always in the DC area for the most part. When I didn't travel, I'd go a couple of days early and I'd go see my parents then. And you have the holiday visits. And so I've always at least 3 to 4 times a year I get to see my parents, and it was alone time really for my parents, just with my family, my immediate family, my mom and dad. And my sisters couldn't believe my dad's the stories out of Mexico with my father. Because he's a tinkerer. He always wanted to be doing something. He's a type A personality, wants to do things with his hands. He wants to tinker with stuff. And in Mexico, he has nothing to tinker with. It's not his.
Okay.
And so he'd read books, he'd play cards, and I'd tell these stories to my sisters, and I say, y'all need to come down with us. They go, he plays what? He plays cards? I said, yeah. He's a different man down there. You know, you have different conversations with him because he's not running off to go do something. And he was always late for dinner because he always had something else he had to fix, and Mom would call him for dinner, and he'd be late to the table, and that was just standard procedure for him.
Yeah. So why Mexico? Why did he like Mexico so much? Why not purchasing property in Florida?
It's a great question. They had some timeshares in other places. Susie and I were going to Mexico since 2001. 2, 3, 4 went to Mexico, and 5 we went to the Bahamas. 6 we didn't go. It was the PGA Championship for Medina. And it was 2007. My parents were down there with us when they got pulled into some meeting, and next thing you know, they were gone for the day. We had no idea where they went, and we were in Cancun, and where they bought in was in Playa del Carmen, the Riviera Maya. So it's about 45 minutes south of Cancun. He liked what they had, and he kept on upgrading and doing different things for that, and it just gave us more excuses to be together. He likes it down there. You got the things he never gets to do on a regular basis, which is just sit back and relax. That's it. It's hard for him to do that.
Yeah. Excellent. So I think the next phase is you got married, right? So what was that whole process like? Where did you meet your wife? I've met your wife several times. I mean, this was probably the last time in CMA. Because she was sick.
Right.
She was not able to come. Otherwise, she always accompanied you.
So
we
we're
always
playing
see
coffee at World Cup.
yeah. So tell us about that.
So that 9-month period in Kansas, I thought I fell in love with somebody there. When my dad had to his open heart surgery, went back to the D.C. area. You know, it was a long distance breakup. We're still in high school. This is before cell phones and stuff like that. So we started dating other people. I went out to Kansas my senior year spring break, and to see her, and kept in touch with her, call her, write her notes. And then she came to Virginia my freshman year's spring break in college. So I decided my freshman year summer to go and spend a time in Kansas chasing her. Stayed with a buddy of mine, played in high school basketball with, stayed in his basement. And I was working several jobs, working on the driving range at the Air Force golf course, and working at Godfather's Pizza and some other jobs. And my dad would call, and he says, "I got a package coming for you. How's it going?" I said, "It's not really doing too well." He says, "When the package comes, fill it out and send it back, okay?" All right. 2 weeks later, he said, "I got your package back. I got another one coming. Fill it out, send it back. How's it going?" I said, "It's not really happening." And the packages he was sending me was 171 forms to get a job in the government. He was planning the entire time, but this wasn't going to happen. He was going to call me home. And the third time he called, he said, "Okay, fish or cut bait. How's it going?" "It's not." "Okay, come home. I got you a job in the government. You had to clerk typist job. You have to take a typing test to get it. Just come home." And so I did. This is around the 4th of July time frame, first of July. And first day on the job, somebody in my office is being transferred out of the building. And so when you have that happen, one of the military guys are getting transferred. So when that happens, you go for lunch. That's what you do in the Pentagon. You go for lunch and celebrate. And Joanne, the receptionist, wanted to go too, because she had an affinity for the officer that's being transferred out. So she called the intern from down the hallway to come watch the phones and watch the door. Had some packages and deliveries back and forth. And so she's talking to Susie. She'd been there for a year already. So the officers knew her, knew what she was doing, knew where she went to school. And Joanne is giving her the what-fors about the packages and what have you. And the officers start to play around. "Susie, have you met our new intern?" "Well, no, I haven't." "Well, his name's Michael Wheeler." "Really?" "He goes to Hamden, Sydney." "What?" "Why would anybody want to go there?" This is what I hear.
Yeah.
I can't see her. I'm listening to this. So I come around from the partition, and we locked eyes and fell in love. It was a love at first sight kind of conversation. And everybody in the office was like, "Okay, we'll see how this works out." She was dating a person who went to Randolph-Macon. He was a football player. And fortunately for me, they were on the rocks after 3.5 years. I was dating other girls because it was some back local, my friends and what have you. But one by one, I got her away from Steve. And then all the other girls I was dating went away too. So by the end of the summer, it was just the two of us. So September 7th, 1985 was the date in which we were exclusive for the two of us. And that's how we met. And I never thought that coming back from Kansas with my tail between my legs, being shunned by somebody I thought I fell in love with. Turns out I met my love of my life on the first day of work.
Yeah. Awesome. That's very interesting. So how long have you guys been married?
We married this year for 38 years.
38 years.
Together for 41.
41. Yeah. Amazing. So what do you like the most about your wife?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things about her. She's definitely my better half. She keeps me straight. She's strong-willed. She's got a great sense of humor. She's got a memory like an elephant. She doesn't forget anything. She's a lot smarter than I am, for sure. But her diligence and perseverance and her love for family and the things she takes care of. We love the same music. We love the same things. Food-wise, we love all the same things, although she has a much narrower palate than mine, although hers is expanding over time. She does have allergies she can't have, which is fine. but it's like all the same things in life. You like the same music, you like the same. We love to go to theater.
Yeah.
We have the same sense of humor. You know, food is an attraction. We both love to entertain.
Yeah.
We have so many likenesses between the two of us. Love the water sports in different parts. We love to travel.
Yeah.
And we just love to spend time with each other. And she's really one of my best friend. And you want that to be your life partners, to be your best friend.
Yeah.
And it's something that you just don't ever think it's going to happen when it happens, and and you do. And
yeah, definitely. It's admiring. So you mentioned that you have 2 kids, right? Who's the older?
Bryce.
And how far apart they are?
2 years to 3 weeks.
And how's their relationship?
Bryce tolerates Ryan.
Okay.
Just because Ryan is, Bryce doesn't talk because he's an epileptic, and these underlying seizures, you can't see them, and they're centered in the speech center of the brain. When he was diagnosed with autism at 2.5, they suspected Landau-Kleffner syndrome because they saw the seizure activity, but they didn't want to diagnose it at 2.5. Although that's his major medical diagnosis going forward in life, is that beyond autism. And so his younger brother, Ryan, didn't talk for the longest time when he first was born, because his idol, his bigger brother, didn't talk, so he didn't have to talk. Now you can't shut Ryan up, which is funny. But they saw each other for the first time a year and a half ago at my parents' memorial, and it was one of those nice little things that Bryce acknowledged Ryan, like, I know who you are, like this, doesn't talk about it, and just kind of like gave him the side look, and okay, cool, haven't seen you in a little bit. And Ryan knows full well at some point in time Bryce is going to be his responsibility after we pass, just because that's our choice to keep Bryce and with us, and not sending him off in some other place. That's our duty.
Yeah. And what is Ryan doing?
Ryan used to work here at Cherokee for 10 years.
Okay.
Started off in the pull snack bar, came inside. The first instruction I gave his manager was, I didn't want him to be known for who he was. I want him to be known for what he did. So I made sure that his name tag didn't have his last name on it. And so he earned his stripes early that year, and when he came inside after the pull snack bar, he was a busser and a food runner. And a couple servers came up to me afterwards and asked the question, like, I just found out that's your son. I said, and? I said, I wish I would have known earlier. I said, why do you wish you would have known earlier? He's wonderful. I just didn't know who he was. I didn't have his last name. So he worked for that length of time, did great things. The greatest attributes for him is when we go to Mexico on spring break, his manager would always say she didn't really realize his influence of how well he did what he did until he was gone. Setting up the Sunday brunch is an example that he'd just take care of it by himself, and it'd take 2 or 3 people to do it when he was gone. But he just got it done, and those are great attributes for him. He left 3 years ago, this week in fact, to move to Maine in Portland to go chase a girl that he met online. Not in a dating app, but a gaming app. And he works at Portland Country Club, doing the same things he was doing here. The greatest thing for that is he got that job on his own. I know the manager, Jim Petzing, and Jim Gazella, and I didn't have to call him. Ryan got the job on his own, and awesome. He's kept it for 3 years. And
that's awesome.
Jim and I have really not talked about that at all.
Yeah. Very good. So I want to go back to that time frame when you were mentioning that you were let go, because obviously that was a learning curve for you. But what I would like to understand is what happened. Like, what were your mistakes which you realized that you had to fix so that you can.
To level, what I was not doing is I wasn't thinking of the bigger picture. I wasn't thinking about things for the organization. I wasn't thinking about things for the department. I was thinking about things for me. I was very self-centered and thinking about my perspective of the world and my perspective of what it was. And I allowed some of the influences of some of the other people at the club to guide my decisions that was kind of baited on, but it was ultimately my decision, so I can't blame them. It's a level of commitment, a level of, I said I wanted to be a part of something bigger. When you want to be a part of something bigger, it's the menu engineering, it's doing more things, it's procurement, it's capital planning, it's programs and services, things about club events and what have you, getting into more of those types of things and understanding the bigger picture. I wasn't doing all those things.
Yeah.
I was thinking very myopically. I had blinders on. I was just thinking about me and thinking about the different parts that I can do, and it really wasn't how can I lend itself to be more than I was doing.
Yeah.
That was the biggest shift, which is my mentality and my approach of it. And that's the approach I've taken all my life since that time frame, in my teachings, in my mentoring of my staff, of what can you do differently. When I went to Army Navy and I started my MBA program, of course it was an annex facility, so at nighttime and in the wintertime it was closed. And I wanted to learn more, so I befriended the chef at Army Navy, and I donned a chef's coat at the Arlington Clubhouse. My club was closed, it was open. I'm on the formal dining room line with a chef's coat, and Roy Camp, who was the general manager, walks by, and I didn't tell him I was doing this. He walked by and he like double takes and said, like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm working with the chef."
Yeah, learning.
He said, "Well, it was not my job."
Right.
And it was something that I did because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn the bigger picture. I learned my lesson. I need to give. I could have been home. I could have been drinking a beer at home, watching something at home. Instead, I wanted to learn. So I befriended somebody who I respected, James Kankowski, and he took me under his wing and pulled me in and said, "Give me a chef's coat," and he started teaching me different things. And those are the things I tell my staff on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Doing your job's not enough. You got to be doing more than your job. And if you want something in life, you want to have a certain position in life, you want to be, if you hold somebody on a pedestal, what do they do to be successful?
Yeah.
When I worked for Bill Kendall, I was the chairman of the Assistant Managers Conference in 1993. The speech that I gave at Fairfax Country Club at the tail end of that conference went like this. We hosted an event on Saturday night at Woodmont, and when Bill Kendall walked in the door, it was almost like E.F. Hutton. People stopped talking, they changed and looked like, "Who's that? What just happened?" And I referenced that on the speech on that Monday night. I said, "Raise your hand if you recognize what happened when Bill Kendall walked in the door." Then everybody just stopped talking. He commanded attention when he walked into there. What do you call that?
He was commanding the room.
It's charisma, it's character. He has earned that from what he is, and he's held at that high standard. Raise your hand if you want to be where he is. Leave your hand up if you want to make what he makes. And you want to command a room like he's commanded the room. Okay? Leave your hand up if you're willing to give what he has given over his life to make what he makes and be where he is and command a room like that. And what I mean is it's beyond what you think. And of course, everybody's waiting on the next sentence. It's more than just the association. It's more the respect he has. He was on the national board at the time frame for CMAA. And he and his wife, Patty, had 35 foster children.
What? 35?
They had 35 foster children come through their house.
Wow.
They had 6 kids. Not all of them were theirs. 2 or 3 of them were adopted out of that foster child pool. This is the character we're talking about.
Amazing.
Is doing those types of things, the giving, the giving, the giving, the giving. If you always give in life, if you ever have to ask, you'll be able to get. But if you don't ever give, you might not get. It's like the Stephen Covey's deposits. You can't take away from the things you haven't put deposits in your bank accounts. You have to put the emotional bank account and fill it up before you can take away.
Yeah.
It's very similar analogy for that. And that was Bill Kendall. And that's the way he is, and that's the way he was. And he's my mentor. He's the one that I always thought for years on end when I had decisions to make going forward. The Bill Kendall bobblehead was always on my shoulder. And I had to reference back to say, well, what'd you do? Not literally. I always said in my head, like he was always with me And like, what would Bill think? And over time, I stopped thinking about what would Bill think because it became what Michael thought. And it was one of those things that became ingrained to who I was and what I was all about. And I didn't have to reference back to those different things. It just came natural.
Yeah. So the things you mentioned, things you were not doing, do you think you were not doing those things because you were putting in, you mentioned 70, 80 hours a week. You were doing hard work.
And that was at Woodmont.
Oh, okay.
Not in Rockville.
Not
in Lakewood.
So you were not putting in that many hours? Okay. All right. Okay. So there was nothing wrong with the mentorship or leadership in that sense that they were coaching you, but you were not getting
the club. The environment at Lakewood wasn't conducive to bringing in somebody that needed to have that rectification. And I didn't provide it for myself. So it was both ways.
Yeah.
In our situation, in my situation going forward, I want to create an environment where I'm inviting people to be a part of what we have. And they come in, assistant managers come in at different levels of achievement, different levels of drive, different levels of aspirations in which they want to do. But they're plugged into a situation where there's encouragement, there's programmatic parts of this entire thing of how you get to learn the Cherokee way or the Michael way. And it's something that if I were to walk into the situation we have here at Cherokee, the result wouldn't have been me being fired. At the same time frame, I still need to have changed and evolved into something different. So in many different ways, it was probably the best of all worlds for me to being fired because it became my drive and not the institution's drive. It became more what I wanted to do and to be those things versus what I was driven to be by my, or pushed or encouraged that way. Because you can only, the saying goes, you can't make a horse eat the oats. Again, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
My saying is, but you can salt the oats. Because you salt the oats, you'll make the horse thirsty. So if you give them enough encouragement to be in the things you want to, you may not forcing the horse to drink, but you're kind of making an environment where they want to drink.
Yes.
And so I think it was much more powerful for me to be able to have the, it's almost like, hitting rock bottom as an alcoholic. Not that that's the same analogy, but it's one of those where I needed to have been taught in a way that I needed to hit rock bottom. And hitting rock bottom, having 2 jobs in the first year of marriage, and my in-laws looked at my wife and said, "Well, who did you marry?" Oh my gosh, he's not gonna turn into anything. Which is, my fear of failure is very strong. I'm not the smartest man. I don't have all the right ideas. I wish I could think of all the things and the steps that get to certain situations. I don't have all of those mapped out, and that's a flaw, but it's also a blessing in my mind because you have to take all the inputs you have as you go along through life. You just can't have your mind made up and you're going in a certain direction. You already have it mapped out, but now you have new information and you need to adapt. And if you're not adaptable, then therefore you stick to your same course because you're stubborn and you're bullheaded. But you need to adapt, you need to improvise, you need to do something different. So I know, generally speaking, where we need to go. I don't know every step of the way to get there, but I know full well we'll make the right decisions when we have all the information in front of us. And if we have to pivot, if we have to change our mind, and I've done that several times in my career where it's been acknowledged that swallowing your pride and admit that you were wrong and go in a different direction is something you have to do. And the level of respect that is gleaned from your staff, the people that work for you, it's really important to know full well that he reasons, he listens, he's open-minded. My staff will also tell you that sometimes if I don't like it right off the bat, they'll see it in my eyes, but they always come back and say, we know that you thought about it, because you always come back to it.
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. So tell me about your time period in Medina. 6 years?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years, almost to the day. I wasn't looking for that job. I was working at Westmoreland Country Club in Chicago on the North Shore. I was on the board of the chapter. And Kevin Kennebeck, who was there as a manager, was leaving the club. It was his second stint at the club. He was an assistant manager working for Bob Nelson before. Now he's a GM. When he started there, he had no kids. Now he's got kids. But Kevin's style was very different. And the club itself was very challenging. Had a very bad reputation in governance of being a micromanaging governance model. And they kind of chewed up and spit out managers left and right. And so Kevin, when he was leaving, he kind of surveyed the chapter and says, you need to apply for this job. I'm like, I don't know if I want that job. And so he called me back again and he says, no, you really need to apply for this job. I said, Kevin, I'm happy where I am, you know, it's just, no, I don't think I do. He says, you need to do this. And eventually I gave in to him and I said, fine. If I don't get the job, I want to come back to the club. I need your assurances of the privacy that this is going to have, because it's maybe a big town, but it's a small town for rumors. Mm-hmm. He assured me that it'll be kept secret. Mm-hmm. And in my first interview there, I remember like it was yesterday that the president that was hiring me asked me the question if I'd called John Sibbald. Well, John Sibbald had done several searches at Medina in the past. Of course, he's the famed person who made the platinum clubs. He's the person who came up with the platinum club idea. Mm-hmm. And I looked back at his name was Don Larson, and I said, no, why would I call him? He's not doing the search. And that's the back and forth. In an interview, it's exactly what I said back to him, like, why would I call him? He's not doing the search. So it was more of a very down-to-earth kind of let's get to know stuff. Mm-hmm. I told him my concerns about the club. I told him the concerns about the job, that they had a bad reputation and micromanaging bunch and what have you, and they acknowledged that was their history and their traditions and their reputation, and they said they wanted to do something different. They obviously convinced me that they want to do something different, and so when they offered me the job, I did take the job. Yeah. It was one of the most interesting things. I wrote a first impressions report for the club. So in the first 45 days, I had a first impressions report for the governing board, sitting in front of them in the first board meeting, and Don's sitting to my right, I'm sitting to the left of the president, and he doesn't tell me this in advance, but he asked me, he says, Michael, can you tell the board what it is that you're going to do to give the membership the first impressions about what Michael Wheeler's all about? I looked at him and I said, really? He said, yeah. I leaned down and I said, nothing. And I looked back at him. That became the nothing speech in his mind. He actually labeled it. He said, and everybody's busting out laughing. And he said, would you like to expound on that? I said, certainly. I said, in the process of you interviewing me for this job, I told you very much well that what your reputation is here at the club. It was a micromanaging governance model, and I found out very quickly after being here for 45 days that there's a lot of structure that needs to be put in place, things that aren't in the right position. People coming to me for decisions that need to go to my clubhouse manager or other places. I'm not the person that's going to have all the ideas and all the answers, but they need to go a different way. Yeah. So I'm not here to do their job. Yeah. My job is to get them to do their job.
Absolutely.
I'm going to guide them to do their job. I'm going to give them the tools to do their job. I'm going to be the guidance. I'm going to be with them. They're not going to do it on an island. But the fact of the matter is, that's something that takes time. And that's what this club needs. And you asked me the question of what I'm going to do for an immediate first impression of what I'm going to do. The membership's not going to see the benefits of what I'm doing right off the bat, so it's not going to be immediate gratification that you're looking for. Yeah. That's not what you needed, that's not what you want, that's not what you asked me to do, so therefore my answer to your question is nothing, because I'm going to do something that you need.
Yes.
And that turned into what he quoted in the nothing speech, which he remembered 10 years post that time frame, and he asked me to tell Robert Cerecci, who had the job at Medina when I was playing golf there. Robert came out of his office and he says, somehow my first board meeting came up and Don asked me to tell Robert the story about my first board meeting. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, the nothing speech. Which I knew that's how I knew he labeled it the nothing speech. It was 10 years afterwards. Yeah. He remembered it exactly as I told it to him. And he says, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I'd do that today in the same manner I did it, but it just seemed like the right thing to say, right at the time, and it's what they needed to have. Yeah. The exit report that I gave Medina was somewhat similar to that. It was right after the PGA Championship in '06. I'd asked 4 consecutive years to have a PGA bonuses put into place for my senior staff. I'd ask around to the managers at the Southern Hills and the Country Club in Baltusrol, Congressional about those types of things. Oh, those exist. What's common? And they all answered yes, 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 yes. So I asked 3 times, 4 times to get those put in, and I was told no. So after we left, after the PGA Championship, we took us to, the general chairman took us out to Charlie Trotter's for dinner. The pro went and I went. The superintendent didn't go because he had his, everybody was all upset about the scoring number that Tiger won with, and their pride was hurt because of how far under par he was and what have you, which really wasn't his fault. The PGA of America controls the week and made them stop rolling the greens to firm them up, and they got soft, and then it rained, so therefore all that goes out the window. But nonetheless, at Charlie Trotter's, after asking 4 consecutive times to get PGA bonuses put in for the existing staff of Medina, the general chairman and the PGA executive committee gave out Rolex watches to the PGA staffers at Charlie Trotter's in front of myself, in front of the golf professional.
How many?
4 or 5.
Amazing.
And so I put that in my exit report. That this is the level of appreciation that they needed to have for their staff.
Yep.
And the things that need to have something different. So the exit report is 68 pages long, and I gave it to the board and I gave it to my staff. The one thing I knew came true with that exit report was they did pay PGA bonuses to my staff, not to myself. I'd already left the club.
Right.
Didn't expect that from me anyway.
Yeah.
But I heard nothing about that exit report for 10 years. Stephen Johnston, who is the founding person of GGA Partners, was here at Cherokee in 2015, and he told me, he was asking a question about my philosophy about committees. And I said, it's easy to define the role, give them something to do, give them something to accomplish within that to-do list, and don't waste their time. It had been 5 things before, but it's now 4 today. And he said, I've read that. I said, what do you mean you've read that? He said, I've read that. I said, that was in my exit report at Medina. He says, I know, they gave me a copy. I'd hired them in 2005 to do the strategic plan for Medina. I said, well, I'm sure they weren't well happy about everything I wrote in there because they just called a spade what they needed to know. In fact, the title of the report is Past, Present, and Future for What It's Worth. And he said, well, at first they were kind of caught off guard by it, but that's not been their response since. I said, well, the only thing I know that's ever came out of it was they paid the PGA bonuses for my staff. He said, you don't really realize, Michael, that they've used that white paper for the pillars of the strategic plan ever since you left the club.
Amazing.
And I said, shut up, no way. That following year was the year I was, that Don Larson asked me to give the nothing speech in front of the club. That was for the NCAA conference. It was held in the Union League. The same year they hosted a golf outing at Conway Farms. After we finished playing golf, there was a table of Medina folks. I knew 3 of them. And Bruce D'Angelo was the president of the club, and Mike Sema was the vice president. There's 2 of the guys, and Mike Frank was the other third person I knew. Bruce D'Angelo looked over to me and says, Wheeler, are you going to come say hi to us? Got up, sat down. His house, Cherokee, how's it going? It goes great. How are y'all doing like this? And Bruce D'Angelo starts talking about that white paper. And Mike Sema hadn't seen it yet.
Right.
And Bruce says, Mike, he says, I'll send it to you. It's the best thing in the world. We've done everything that he's told us to do in this whole entire thing. It's been great. And so looking back at Stephen Johnston's comment, I'm like, it's true. Fast forward at Union League, Tara Waldron had a president or board member from Desert Highlands there. His name was Daryl Elfeld. He was a board member at Medina. He's relocated to Arizona permanently. And another person who worked around the corner from the league, who wasn't a part of the conference, but he had talked to Don Larson because I played golf with him the day before, and that I was in town. So at the first break, Daryl Elfeld and Ed Malisic was his name, came over and centered on me at one point in time. Within 3 minutes, Ed Malisic was talking about that report. He said, I take it off the shelf once a year, Michael. I read it every year. I really, really appreciate you doing that. You never know I did it for the right reasons.
Right.
And for 9 years, I heard nothing. And I finally got validation after 10 years that it actually was meaningful. And it was taken for what it was meant to be.
Yes.
Was to help them. And nothing but that. And a little bit like myself back at the first club. You know, they needed to be told what they needed to know, not what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Just like I needed the same thing when I was my first manager job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, grow up a little bit and admit that, they're right.
Yeah. I mean, every single time we, as a software company, interact with the customer who's giving us feedback, and sometimes when people give a lot of feedback, they kind of feel bad that they're only talking about the drawbacks or the shortcomings or bugs or things which are not there. And sometimes they feel bad telling us that you might be thinking I'm just talking about all the negative stuff, and we are always going back to the same belief that people, those who are giving you feedback, are the ones those who want nothing but best from you. So this is like a free advice they're giving you to be better.
Yeah.
So you better listen, right?
Be careful the ones that don't talk to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So we like that constant feedback, and just like the way you mentioned, this has helped you and a country club like Medina becoming better at what they were doing. Excellent. So tell me about Cherokee. When did you join Cherokee? 2005?
2006.
2006. And you put Nostar 2007?
8.
8. So did you join Cherokee because of the culture of Cherokee? What happened here? Like, how did you get here?
Cherokee was always held on the pedestal and you think about earlier in life, you teach your assistants to have goals, and to have goals that are grounded. And why do you want them to be grounded? It's places you look up to, places you aspire to be, whether it's a manager that works there, the style of the club, the location of the club, geographically, all of the above. John Jordan, who was the second manager the club's had, I'm the fourth manager the club's ever had in the 70 years the club has been in existence. John was here for 43 years. He was the manager for 33 of those 43 years.
Wow.
He was Bill Kendall's best friend. Bill Kendall used to work at Capital City. That's how they became their friendship. And of course, my mentor in the business was Bill Kendall. I was working for Bill Kendall at Woodmont Country Club in Rockville, Maryland, when he and John Jordan were president and vice president together. So I got to meet John Jordan through Bill. And I remember coming down here in 1991 for the BMI program before I started working for Bill, and I got exposed to Cherokee at the BMI Wine Affinities dinner that the Cherokee still performs today. Today it's a wine dinner and not the Wine Affinities program that John Jordan had, because his MCM was on wine and food pairings, and that's the Wine Affinities dinner that he created. And so I looked at John at that time frame, and I'm saying to myself, I want that man's job. And then I met Bill Kendall, and I got to know John better, and insights about Cherokee as well. And so coming to Cherokee was almost like it was meant to be. And it was one of those where during the PGA Championship, Jim Singling, the past CEO of CMAA, was a stooge, if you will, for John. John came back to manage the club for 6 months on an interim basis when I was hired. And Jim Singling was given a task to talk to me. Well, Jim Singling was at the PGA Championship because he's the CEO of CMAA, and he asked if we can go take a ride. So we got on a golf cart. We're on course 2 in the middle of the day during the PGA Championship, having a conversation about this job. And I got my earbud in. I'm listening to things I need to listen to. And Jim says, "Do you need to be someplace else?" I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." And that was after so that was the second step. First step was I invited Jim Singling to come to Chicago for the President Manager's Golf outing, and he was the speaker. So I picked up at the airport, and when he was in my car for 5 minutes, he said to me, he started talking about Cherokee. So the meeting on the golf course was after that time frame. So just kind of following up on things in general about the club. You know, it's always been held high on a pedestal. I mean, anybody that's come through looking at, whatever ratings you want to talk about from that standpoint, Cherokee's always on one of those top lists of things you think about. And it has a lot to do with John and the way he carried himself in the club. And so coming to Cherokee, like I said, it's always meant to be. When I got the job and I did a home inspection come back here. Kevin Walker, the certified master chef that was here, was having a CMC dinner on Monday, and I was playing golf with the vice president at the time frame, and he sent the country club chef out and said, "Hey, can you stay for the CMC dinner on Monday?" And I knew it was a black tie event. I said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have my black tux with me, and I have some things I have to get done when I go back home." He said, "Why don't you come over tonight to my house? Can you come over tonight?" I said, "Sure." So he gave me directions, and I came in. The first person I saw when I walked to Kevin's house was Judy Jordan.
Mm.
I gave Judy a hug and a kiss, and then she started giving me the finger whack. And I'm like, shame on you. I'm like, what is that about? She says, you should have called Patty Kendall sooner. I'm like, I've talked to Patty. I'm not understanding the timing of things. You just should have called her sooner, she says. I said, I'm really confused, Judy, because I talked to Patty Kendall about coming to Cherokee. And she says, but you should have done it sooner. I said, okay, I'm not understanding. How do you know when I talked to Judy? You understand, Michael, as soon as you got off the phone with Patty Kendall, she called me.
Mm.
I said, now I'm even more confused. John and I never talked about me calling Patty.
Right.
She says, Michael, you didn't have to say a word about that. John knew you were going to call Patty Kendall. Of course, Bill Kendall had passed away. She was a widow, Bill's widow at the time frame. And so that synergy of this, he knew I was going to call Patty, and I did, and we never talked about it. I mean, those kind of things just line up. It's almost like it's meant to be. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I'm going to reflect on them the rest of the day today. And this is what I was expecting talking to you today. So let's talk about some leadership, training you do here, because I've seen so many great leaders, which are now. I mean, I saw Joe Kern's appointment, posting day before yesterday, and I was so proud of him. So like Joe, people like Luann, I know from the industry, those who came to this institution, right, under your leadership and became who they are. So first, I want to understand, when you hire people, what are the qualities you look in them?
First and foremost, we hire for character, first and foremost. We believe in the culture of the club and the things that we do. My monograph was about the culture, I teach about the culture of the club. John Jordan talked about the Cherokee standard for the longest time, but the Cherokee standard was never defined by John. It was within John that it existed, and it was his way of getting stuff done. He was pointing out the negative of what wasn't right. So that's not the Cherokee standard, as opposed to that's the Cherokee standard. So it was pointing out things that were not meeting what his expectations were. So the culture was developed in 2007 and 2008. And the culture cards we have are family values cards, and we have the Cherokee core principles, purposes, and value statements that we have. That was derived from the staff. That a lot of them worked with John, so it was really done from the staff, for the staff, and by the staff. It wasn't Michael's hand down. I facilitated the process, well, an outside facilitator, but it also was something that came naturally from the club. So when we hire somebody that comes in, I'm looking for somebody always to be attributes that you had before. What did you like? What didn't you like? Nobody's perfect. And can we make sure we maintain a level of attribute that you have near and dear to your heart, but can you build upon those things? And hiring people that are ambitious, people that want to be involved. One of the things that on my senior staff, a requirement is that you get engaged in your local association. I want people that just don't do their jobs and go home and that's it. I want people that do their jobs, but I want them to be involved locally and nationally, because I want them to have aspirations that are bigger than today, bigger for because that's the drive, that's the aspirations. I want people that are naturally that way. You missed Kimberly Warren, who's on the national board too. I'm so proud of her as well. But those are the things that we demand. I demand of my staff to get involved, because This is how you learn. I don't know everything,
Yeah.
but I know, guarantee you, if you're at a chapter meeting and you're another manager, and I said, well, have you had the situation at your club? And then you maybe have had that situation at your club. Then I stay in touch with you, and you write them a note. You stay in touch with them. You develop your network.
Yeah.
We will send people on planes to go network with other people, and we want them to do that naturally. I don't want to have to prod them and push them to do it. I want them to be asking for more, because these are things that is going to be beneficial to Cherokee. And when one of my people leave, all I have to do is point out where they went, and people saying, "How can I fill in? How can I do this?"
Yeah.
And not everybody can work here. I mean, this is, Cherokee in many different ways does a lot of things that are really, really, really good, but we work hard at it. We push hard at it. Our members push us to be that way.
Yeah.
And so we're that way naturally. If you give us a grade on a given event or given something, the members might give us a 7 or 8, 8.5, and we're giving ourselves a 6 or a 7. We're harder on ourselves than the members are, and that's the relationship you want it to be. You never want to think that you're a 9 and they think you're a 7. You're dead in the water at that point in time, because you think you're better than you really are.
Yeah.
So I hire for character, I hire for attributes, I hire for that drive, I hire for the business savviness. I'm looking to making sure that I have a diversity of thought. You mentioned Luann, I mentioned Kimberly. Kim Crandall was another one. I broke the glass ceiling for the females in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And when I hired Luann, and then I hired Kimberly right after that, and then Kim Crandall. The glass ceiling for the women got broken, and it wasn't really intentional. It's because I don't really see gender. I don't see race. I don't see religion. I don't see any of those different attributes. It's the person. It's the character that matters most. And when the ceiling was broken, somebody in the chapter told me about the impact that it had. And personally, because I didn't have that lens looking at it for that, I was like, oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing it for that reason.
Yeah.
They were the best candidates.
Right.
And I hired the best candidate that's available. And they were, all 3 of those ladies were the best candidates available. So doing the things for right reason, and don't try to stay within the stigma of what Cherokee's always done. So break out and be bold enough, and maybe blind in my case, to what might have been a hindrance in the past. It doesn't have to be a hindrance in the future. Again, I wasn't really intentionally trying to do something. I was just trying to do the best thing for Cherokee, and the best available candidate happened to be 3 females.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'll give
So
you one more story.
yes.
Taught a couple classes at Georgia State University for the hospitality and the club management class, and it was interesting to watch the students. I was dressed like this with a tie, blue blazer, had my autism pen like I have on today, and the kids that were in the class were like this. They're bored out their school. They didn't really want to be in the class, but they had to get their check in the box. It was a miscellaneous class to take.
Yeah. And
then somebody said to me, "What's that pin on your lapel?" And that's when I knew full well they judged me by my book, by the cover. Blue blazer, white coat, white shirt, tie. I said, that's Autism Speaks. So what's the meaning of that for you? So I went to the journey of my son and the likes. And so they grossly assumed that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth and I hadn't had through hard knocks and the likes. And that's something that's just not true. I struggled in school. My first semester at Camden Sydney, I had a 1.5 GPA on academic probation. Yeah, my dad was thinking about taking me out of school. Thank God he didn't do it, and I pleaded not to. With a decent GPA at the end, I had to learn some things. But the point was, they were not paying attention. They're looking at me and judging a book by its cover. In all things in life, the example I gave about my son being diagnosed at 2.5 and putting him through college twice before he was 10, through all the therapies that he had to have and the struggles with all the things we had to do, really builds the character for who you are and what you're made of.
Yep.
And they went from this, being like this, to like this, and then leaning in at the end of the time we had together, because they started taking interest in me as a person and not judging me by my cover, because I was telling them that I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up in a military family, which is not a rich environment for pay and stuff like that. You know, moving around an awful lot and having to make friends, as we talked earlier.
Yeah.
But then it was all about the struggles with your son and what you have to do to make lemonade out of lemons. If God gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And it was really intriguing to see their posture change in the middle of that class, just because I found out that maybe I wasn't born with a silver spoon.
Yeah. So what do you see the difference between the kids when you were growing up versus now? Like back in the days, you did not have television. You had, you know, radio, and then you have television as a distraction. Now they have phones, biggest distraction, right? So when these kids come and work here, what are your challenges?
You know, it's different yet it's not. It's different yet it's the same. In this business, it's about relationship building. It's about networking. It's about doing more than your job. It's all those different things. For those who basically look at my job and I tell them I work 42 weeks a year, 7 days a week, I have the lifestyle that I can still have dinner with my wife most nights. I have the lifestyle I'm looking for. I have the stability of that entire thing. It's predictability. So it's all the things that are needed and necessary for what I demand of myself. And if you want to grow in this business, if you want to do the things, if you aspire to be me, then what do you have to do to get that? Number one, if you're geographically challenged, shut down your expectations pretty quickly, because you need to be geographically open to move. Each club is an individual club. Each club is not connected to another club. This is not Marriott International.
Yeah.
Although you then might still have to be geographically not challenged to be able to move from them or some other organization that's like them. But if you have those aspirations, understand your own gap analysis. What don't you have? Cherokee has the benefit of having the specificity or just the opposite. The town club has this specific nature of things because it's so big and so much volume. The country club, because it's not as big and doesn't have the volume, is more of a generalist. You become a specialist at the town club. You're a generalist at the country club under one roof. So you get a lot of teachings at Cherokee that you get in. That might be your second club job.
Yeah.
That you get that second experience. Where at Cherokee you get the same experience, both experiences under one house.
Yeah.
With Cherokee on your resume, you might have to leave and go to another place to get the other parts and parcels about that. But what does that gap analysis look like? Did the manager have an internship program? Did the manager take interest in the internship? Did the manager have interest in mentoring people, taking them under their wings? And be very specific where you want to go. Don't accept the job because it's the place that is the first that says yes to you. Kimberly Warren, she did her internship at Chase. She did, first job was working for Bill Schultz, where he did his monograph on the MID program. She went through that MID program as an assistant manager all the way up to the director of catering at Houston Country Club. Then she worked to work for Joe Bendy at River Oaks as the director of catering there. I knew all three managers she worked for. I knew all three clubs and their standards that they have. When I was hiring Kimberly, I knew what I was buying on the skill set, and I was looking for the character of the person. And so she has high aspirations. And when she left me, she went to Saucon Valley for 7 years, and now she's the general manager at Southern Hills Country Club. When you know full well where you've come from and where you've been and what your standards are, then you can hire for the character of the person you're looking to have. And she's a great example of, I knew exactly what I was buying.
Awesome.
So,
very good. What do you think about AI? How is it going to benefit the club?
Learning to use AI for the benefits. One of the biggest things is early on is how it was going to be. Can it still remain private? Can you put things out there and use AI with something that you want to keep private? You can write things like write a job description for a server. You can write different things. You can do things in a generic way. AI can help you out. You still have to put your personal self into the entire thing. Don't accept what AI gives you and say, okay, just accept and go. Because everybody can see full well it's written by somebody. Maybe AI, maybe somebody else. But how to actually use it is something that was taught a lot at conference this year. And it's something that we need to learn more about how to use it and how it can be getting into the work of things. It can take a spreadsheet and it can actually organize things where you don't have to be the guru of all the formulas, the VLOOKUPs, and getting from this sheet and that sheet and put it together and things. And it can do it in a fashion that is so quick. So I think it's going to help us as long as we understand how to use it. And we have to get over the privacy parts of it, because we have to do some things in the club, but we don't want that to be out in the open environment of the internet. And that was the initial first concern about AI, is using it as saying, well, if you put it out there, it's going to be out there, and you maybe not want that out there. There's ways around that, I think, today that you can get there. So it's helping us do things in a faster way. You know, it's almost on the same thing as when you have conversations about the next generation. There's lots of conversations about the next generation may not be smarter than the past generation, because certain things will be given to you versus having to do the work to find it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the fence on both sides of that argument. I can see some of those being true and some of those not being true. It can aid you onto the higher levels of things you're trying to answer. But it also grossly assumes that you have the basis to start off with in knowledge. If you don't have that basis for knowledge, that's where you might be saying it's not as smart, because you don't have that basis. And you're going, this is supposed to be your foundation that you really don't understand how to do, but you're working on something here that this provided you. This is where you had to do this work in the past in order to get to this. Now this is given to you and you're doing this work. So are you not as smart because you're working at a higher levels problem with the gross assumptions that the foundation is there? Maybe the gross foundation is just known like Isaac's Newton's theory of gravity, theory of gravity. We grossly assume it's there, but then can you calculate it and stuff like that? So it'll be interesting to see what it takes. I think we have to learn how to use it better, because I think ultimately it can be very helpful and speed things up, so we can actually be doing things, spend more time out of your office and with the people.
Awesome, awesome. So if I ask you, what is your biggest strength as a leader?
Biggest strength as a leader. One of the things I think my staff would tell you is the calm nature that I have. Steady. You don't ever want to see me on the opposite side of that. It's rare that happens. And when it does happen, it happens for a reason, and it's not nice. It's pretty ugly. And it's a flash in the pan that really is not something that I'm proud of. But I try to hold that in case, because I want the staff to look at me. If we have a tornado or we have a storm, you have to be calm and you have to be thinking about the right things. One year we had a storm on the 4th of July. The clubhouse was filled at the country club. The fire marshal is on property, and there was a lightning strike out on the first fairway. And I'm looking at the weather, looking at the timing, looking at what we're doing, and I just calmly said, "Shut the bars down, get the car and get the buses back. Let's get everybody home safely." And it's just a matter. You put it in perspective. Those are the decisions that have to be made. I got a phone call from somebody the next day complaining about the fact that they didn't get fed. And I was letting him go on, and he goes, "Who made that call? Who made that decision?" That was me. He said, "Well, why'd you do that?" And I said, "Do you realize that we're violating the fire code in the building? And you realize that the fire chief is actually on property? And the fact of the matter is the weather wasn't going to get better. It was not going to get, my job is to get you home safely, not so much to feed you." Feeding is beyond that. If it can't get you home safely, feeding it doesn't really matter. But you have to be calm in those situations. You have to think about that. And people gravitate to people that are calm in those situations, looking at the right things to do and to say, if I am losing it, first and foremost, what do I expect my staff to do? They're not going to keep it together, because if the leader's falling apart, they're going to fall apart.
Absolutely.
So that calmness, I think, is one of the biggest attributes that really, they'll say over time that I'm not wild and crazy, I'm not flamboyant, I don't do those types of things. They would say also that the public Michael is not the private Michael. One of our, last year at the BMI in Switzerland, one of the chapter members went, and Susan said, She goes, I am so happy that we are to do this together. I said, why that? She goes, I finally get to know the real Michael. I said, what do you mean? She goes, oh my gosh, you're a card. You have a sense of humor. You have a different way.
Yeah.
And I said, there's the real Michael inside. You know, my staff will tell you I'm the first to crack jokes and have fun.
Yeah.
Then that's not the public Michael you see.
Yeah.
I learned that early on, and it kind of stuck with me that I was always doing jobs that were much older than I was. When I first worked for Bill Kendall at Woodmont, I was 24. Angela Ikowitz, who had the job before me, was left to be the general manager of Bethesda Country Club, was 41. So I replaced a 41-year-old at the age of 24.
Yeah.
I was a general manager at the age of 27. And so I always did things well beyond my years, and I always wanted to project calmness and a certain demeanor about myself, and not to be young, jovial, and immature. That's not what I wanted to portray, and it's always kind of stuck with me that way. That's the persona that I have, but once you get to know the real Michael, that's not the real Michael.
Okay, all right, awesome. What about weakness?
I generally work 42 weeks out of the 52, 7 days a week. I touch the club all the time, just because we are a 7-day-a-week operation. Food and beverage is not open on Mondays. But I do so because, generally speaking, Tuesdays through Fridays, now it's Monday through Fridays, they get the administrative works and the meetings and things that have to happen to coordinate. They occupy my days during the week. And so I get more of my work done, my thinking done, my things I need to do on the weekends. So I'll either come to the country club or the town club, or I might work at home. But I touch the club 7 days a week. But the greatest thing is, I generally speaking, that balance of life that my interns ask all the time about what that looks like. You know, unless there's a reason why I have to be here late, meaning there's something that's the annual meeting is like an example. I'm not home for that. I'm here. I'm here until the end of the party. Yeah. Same thing for member guests and the parties from that standpoint. But on a really day-to-day basis, you know, I'm generally home by 7 o'clock, and so I have dinner at home most days of the week and the weekends. I like to cook. It's that influence from my mother as well. And
grandfather.
And grandfather. And so home things, you know, with Bryce in the house, he's got a very narrow palate. Taking him out to dinner is not really something he enjoys to do. So we stay at home. We invite people over. When I go home in the afternoons, on the weekends, I know never who's going to be in the pool in season and sticking around. So if I get home early enough in the afternoon, I'll put something on and cook for everybody else and have an early dinner. And so it's weekends are those. I used to love to run. I used to play basketball until I turned 50. And I stopped playing basketball with a knee injury. Okay. Started running. Okay. And now I have a bad back, so now I can't run. So, you know, trying to get that outlet in the gym downstairs, or on the bike or a treadmill, walking up a hill, do those different things. It's what I enjoy.
Yeah. Favorite book?
Favorite book or favorite author? Which one?
Favorite author?
You know, the favorite author is Patrick Lencioni, just because that's the things we use here at Cherokee through the culture in that program. I really don't have a favorite singular book, other than the fact that the one that I would give to any assistant to say, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is probably the best book you could ever read in life. That reading the Bible. There's so many different things that come out of both. Just say, there's fables, there's directions to be. How do you influence people? That's an old book, but it's one of the best books that's ever written. And it's one that I give to people all the time and say that's something to read. And if you just embrace what's said, you know, because what we do at the club is people. You mentioned earlier, my degree's in psychology. I didn't go to school in hospitality. I believe having a psychology degree undergrad and a MBA in management and finance is the best of all worlds. It crosses both the business side and the people side. People are the number one asset that walks on 2 feet, but you have to plug them into the system of how things work within the club. And so I think How to Influence and Influence People is one of the best books that you can do, because, you know, people is the biggest thing in my mind.
Favorite food?
Whatever's in front of me, really. We had a couple board meetings ago. Somebody asked the question. It was kind of a morbid start to the conversation, like, "What was your last meal? What would it be?" Almost like this, you're on death row, I guess. But it's really not where it was intended to go. And so we went around the table, asking the question, "Your last meal, if you can draw it up, what would it be?" And mine was easy, and I got a lot of people going like,
Cheeseburger?
No, it's my wife's Thanksgiving.
Oh.
My wife, we do Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day. We do Thanksgiving at Christmas as well. It's the same meal. We just repeat the same things. When we first got married, and my wife's a very good cook, but she's not the adventurous cooker. She's more of a baker. I was working at Army Navy, and I went to work and came back, and we just had a new townhome in Woodbridge, Virginia. So my uncle and his family, my parents, my family were over at our house at 22, 23, and I came in, and every pot, every pan, every dish, every spatula, every platter was all used. And I was like, oh my gosh, we can't do this. And so some of the things that we talk about, my wife and my relationship, today I come home from work on Thanksgiving Day, and this will tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
But you couldn't tell you're having Thanksgiving because she's sitting at the table playing cards with her parents. And you know, it's just it's batch cooked. Everything is done in advance. Everything's picked up and cleaned up, and it's a wonderful thing. But the flavor profile, we probably have Thanksgiving 5 times a year. 2 by plan for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we have it again 2 or 3 other times in the year. And we always have to have leftovers. So we have blocks of her Susie stuffing she does, and we have the yams that she does, which is done in orange juice, Myers rum, and brown sugar, molasses. It's marinated for 5 days for Thanksgiving, and Susie stuffing, and of course the turkey's always been great. Just the flavor profile. It's the things where, your nose and your smells create so many memories. When you walk into Grandma's house, it smells like Grandma's house, and you remember lots of things about Grandma. To me, cooking does the exact same thing. I know full well it's Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, just because when I get up in the morning, she's already got the Susie stuffing on the stove and it's ready to go. So that's my favorite meal. It's Thanksgiving.
Recipe of relationship, good relationship.
Compromise. Saying you're sorry. Admitting when you're wrong. Again, every relationship is a compromise. Nobody's going to get their way more so than less. That's not a relationship that's built to last. Trust. So those things are the biggest things that you have to make a long-standing relationships. Is those things.
All right, sounds good. I think if we can sit here for the rest of the day, I would, because I just love listening to all the wisdom from you. So thank you very much for your time. I truly appreciate all of you listening, and hopefully you can see the real man behind this title, a great title of a general manager and a chief operating officer. Because reality is this: at the end of the day, all of us are regular human beings. We went through the process. There is no magic. We learned over the years what works, what doesn't, and we stick to it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael.